still against war. It just
I'm not
make
saying
sense.
you have to be for war. I wasn't asking that. I was asking all the things that are peaceful that you can do to try to move them. We've done. They don't work. What does that mean that you have left?
I think we need to explore to see what we can create.
Not what I asked you. Once you take violence and nonviolence and are on the same table, and you try all the nonviolent things, and they don't work, what are you left with?
I agree with what you're saying, but I know for a fact we have not tried everything there is to try.
Okay, what have we not tried? If you are so well versed in Iranian American policy and our ability to persuade Iran to not get nuclear weapons, what is the stuff we've tried? What is the stuff we haven't tried?
I'll give you an example. Like, we won't let the Iranian team, the football team, stay in the U.S. So Claudia, Mexico, told him, "Yeah, you can come stay with us here in
Well, that's not exactly a proper recitation of what happened. What happened was they decided they did not want to reside their team in the United States. And for whatever reason, it had to do, I believe, with display of a flag or something like that. I understand their position. And they decided to decamp before they actually camped the United States. And they made the unilateral decision to move their headquarters to Mexico. And the president of Mexico then said they are welcome there. That's not quite the way you presented it. And I just want to make sure that we are factual in the way we present it. So there's a nuance different, and I think this nuance different is very significant from the way you just presented. But how does that stop them from developing a nuclear weapon? Okay, no answer. I'm going to...
Gary, can I say something?
Of course. Of course.
But I sent you, I guess it's video from a news media outlet from Mexico, from TikTok, and it clearly shows Claudia saying, you can look at it. It clearly says the United States would not let the Iranian team stay there.
Okay, but she said they were welcome after they made the decision to move to Mexico. So again, the question I have, and then we'll go back to Alan for a second, is what does that have to do where the Iranian team stages? I mean, it's a 3-country event, the World Cup. Yes. So the 3 countries are hosting it. So they could have decided to go to Canada. It doesn't really matter. What does that have to do with our discussion today? That kind of allusion.
It's the Iranian team, right? And the U.S. We should keep, we have told many people, keep politics out of sports. I mean, we told LeBron James.
That's a good argument to be made if that's what we're discussing. But the discussion is far higher level than the question of whether the United States diplomatically created a misstep with regard to the World Cup games, which is, if you're correct in your assessment, is absolutely open to criticism. You say that in the context of the question that Marshall asked you, what can be done to prevent Iran, short of war, from obtaining nuclear weapons, and you talk about the World Cup?
Well, I will say this, right? I'm not a politician, so I'm not versed to that level in politics. So I'm only using common sense, and my common sense as a carpenter tells me there's other things we should be able to do other than war.
Okay, I'm going to give you an assignment, as I have in the past. Your assignment this time, Hermes, is if you can come up with an alternative. I am relatively confident. I'm not saying that I have a direct line to the Oval Office, but I'm relatively confident that I know how to get a legitimate proposal to the attention of the executive branch. I do. I could. If you came up with something that really gets us out of this question of war or no war to stop a war, which is basically what we're discussing. Because you're just talking concepts here. When Marshall tries to pin you, you can't, and that's fine. But if you can come up with something, I will, if it's a legitimate, doable solution, I will get it into the hands of somebody in the executive branch. Is that a deal?
That's a deal. Thank you, Gary.
Thank you. Alan?
Yes, sir. I'm amazed everybody's saying. I agree with Hermes, what he says. No deal, but find the solution. But nobody's suggesting this. I think the only things can give 100% result is supporting Iranian. Don't tell me this sophisticated world with all this equipment, everything is possible in their hand. They cannot support the 80 million people which they against the regime. Come on, we saw this in the past in many countries. They had lot less supporter and they were success. But this is how it is. Only way, support Iranian by any way you can. And I think ultimately is weaponize them and they take care of everything. It makes their life so easy for each individual of you. And then it's going to happen. But nobody is paying attention to that. I don't know what is in there because that's what Iranian is asking. They said, we don't want you to do anything. All we need your support. That's it. And don't tell me this sanction it can be. If we cannot stop China to milk Iran, if we cannot stop Russia, then don't worry about it. Don't forget about it. Why? This thing didn't start as a war. It started as a precise hit. Israel hit the top element, annihilate them to the highest extent. And then Mr. Trump came out of Southern, says, you guys go and we are back you up. And then send all this ship, all this equipment over there. They're sitting in every American, they claim, $14 billion a day it's cost. This is not. Just put them, plan together, help and as you said, I think you said something about what Obama said. He was the cause. It's nuclear advancement. Who built Natanz? Natanz built after all this deal Mr. Obama had with Iran. Who is going to go? I don't know how many. Do you have any restaurant owners in here? Is the health department? It's going to give you 2 weeks advance. They can't come and check your restaurant, or they're just going to walk in. They're just going to walk in. Obama made a deal 3 weeks advance. We give you a notice. We're going to come check you. These people are all guilty of our lies. Back to you, Gary. I don't know. Help Iranian. Find a way to help Iranian. Don't tell me this advanced world, they cannot come up with the solution. They can help 80 million people get rid of them murdered, them jailed, them raping. Jesus Christ.
Well, you probably came closer to the real solution to all this than anybody has on the stage, but I don't really want to discuss it right now. But there probably is something going on if I channel Tom Clancy. I can see what may be going on behind the scenes. So I could be wrong, but I think you came very, very close to revealing the scenario of the fictional account of this, and I'm hard at work at, Alan. Agent followed by William.
Hi. I'm curious for you to say more. Like, do you think there'll just be more replacement of the leadership? in Iran so the actual deal can go through?
Oh, you picked up on it, didn't you? So the reality is the Israelis had showed with Hezbollah, they showed with Hamas, and now they're showing with Hezbollah, and they showed during a period of time with Iran that the tactic of playing wackadoodle, which I don't mean to make light of it, it's people's lives, and people will argue that it's against the international law. I'm not saying that it is or it isn't, and I'm not saying I propose it, but I'm talking about what I suggest is probably the scenario, is exactly that. You keep, nobody wants to be the next one to get promoted because they know that they're going to get you. Why do you think they're doing this relay system to get information to the Ayatollah? They're scared to death that the Israelis are going to find out where he is. It would not be beyond the realm of possibility that the Israelis already know. For God's sakes, when that war, that short war occurred in August, the attacks did not all come from Israel. The attacks came from Israelis who had been in country for years. We're talking about a country that's fighting for its own existence, and they're going to do what they need to do to stay alive. And are the U.S. and Israeli policies in alignment? Sometimes, but sometimes they're cross-purposed. The president is worried about the midterms. The prime minister is worried about whether there's going to be a mushroom-shaped cloud hanging over Israel. Totally different perspectives. If you, or not you, but if one were to think that the Israeli approach to this should be expected to be the same as the U.S. approach, notwithstanding the tremendous support the United States gives Israel militarily, and notwithstanding the ability the United States has to tell Israel you can do this or you can't do that, you lose some of your sovereignty when you accept the money. This is exactly why Netanyahu said a few weeks ago that we want to work to the point where we no longer need the largesse of the United States, so that Israel can do what's in Israel's best interests, and the United States can do what's in the United States' best interests. And more times than not, there'll be an alignment there, but not always, especially when it comes to tactics. Not always. And the Israelis are really good at finding where these folks are. And I'm not going to say that I have any inside information, but I will say I am far from not believing the Israelis know where the Ayatollah Khamenei is right now, that they can reach out and touch any time that they want. And what's been constraining them is Trump. And I'm not criticizing Trump. He's doing what he thinks is best for him in the United States. But Netanyahu, and by the way, for everybody who's got their crosshairs, not physical crosshairs, political crosshairs, pointed at Netanyahu, if you think that there would be a substantial change in Israeli body politic with regard to protecting the homeland, if Netanyahu, the evil Netanyahu, was removed from office and somebody less aggressive becomes prime minister, I got a bridge to Brooklyn I'm happy to sell you.
Yeah. Gary, what you say makes sense. I think there's basically two countries against Iran right now, and then there's a lot of sort of the regional countries. I think mostly just want stability, but also they're certainly wary of Iran. They don't want, like, they're all somewhat at odds. Saudi especially. Saudi said if Iran got a bomb, they would go for a bomb. Like, it basically would cause an absolute shit show if Iran gets a bomb. You can argue it's already caused a shit show that Israel has the bomb. And I heard a description or analysis the other day that even what we've seen, I think, could go back to last summer before Trump dropping the bombs last summer was in part he was given a choice. He was given a kind of an ultimatum or a bit of a choice of saying, look, we, Israel, I'm sure it came from Netanyahu or his close associates, we are going, like, we cannot have Iran getting a bomb because they will nuke us one way or another. That we believe this is the case. It's almost an absolute or too high a risk. And the only tool we have to prevent it is to nuke them. And we will, if it's close enough or if, as soon as they have it, we will use the only tool we have to stop them from getting the bomb. Come hell or high water, because we're almost screwed anyway. Even Pakistan is apparently, I need confirmation on this, but in this analysis, Pakistan's already pledged that if Israel nukes Iran, then Pakistan will nuke Israel. That was new information to me.
So pact between Iran and Pakistan.
Right. That seems like a big problem, and to me, I'd like to understand that more and why the U.S., for instance, like, is willing to tolerate that. But yeah, essentially, that would not be good, right? So it just becomes this like cascading, like World War I became this cascade of alliances that then kicked off this crazy war, and it seems like that is what we were looking at with Iran going for the bomb. They are an insane regime. I think to Alan, Alan talked about the Iranian people. I have many dear friends who are Persian, and I am very sympathetic. I want all the good things for the Iranian people. They had a chance, even the last few years, like they've been given many chances. Even the revolution they had, like the Shah was at least our boy there, right? He got overthrown. My understanding by both the far left and the far right at the time, but the far right dominated and like probably crushed the far left after that. And now you have IRGC, and that's been bad. These people look at all the terror they sponsored in the region, and they just want to they see themselves as, we are the Persian Empire, we are, and we should have the nukes and we should dominate. And Israel's a problem. Israel's the little Satan. US is the big Satan that supports them, and it's like their mission to destroy them. If they could just be reasonable, we could all live in peace. They could just be, they're great people. They could be flourishing, just doing business. They renegotiated when they got rid of the Shah. They're like, hey, we want more of our oil sales. That would be fine. But where we are now, look, I think we have two competing interests though now. The U.S. is in a marriage with Israel. They're willing to, they're not going to let Israel get nuked, or they're not going to let Israel start a world war by nuking Iran. So they're like, okay, I guess if we just drop a few bombs or we participate in like some fraction of our military budget for this, we haven't put troops on the ground. So it's like, can we kind of cheaply and efficiently get this job done? It's been harder, we killed the top guys. We did wipe out a lot of their military, but it's still, they're very robust in how they are organized. So I think the long term, though, is the U.S. is going to it's not going to go so well. The U.S. is eventually going to withdraw one way or another and maybe claim a fake victory. And then Israel will be left to continue. And using the means that you're suggesting, using direct bombing, like they're just going to have to be more aggressive. But their goal, it's two competing goals, because the The U.S., I think, just wants stability and peace at some level, and Israel wants to really crush. They're not willing to just like, oh yeah, you handed over the nuclear stuff and it's done. I think at this point they want to keep Iran a rump state. They don't care if it looks like God. Like, it's almost like that's the end state, I think, of anyone who opposes Israel at some level is you're going to become Gaza. And
Well,
I'm afraid that's where we're going to go.
Hold on a second here. It's not opposing Israel at some level. It is using your terrorist network to kill Jewish people in Israel. And if you're going to do that, then you're going to get the wrath of God to come down upon you. That's the Israeli perspective.
No, I understand.
They're not threatening people who oppose them in some manner. They're not, all this propaganda out there, and I'm not saying that you are a proponent of the propaganda, but all this propaganda about Israel expansionism and all this kind of stuff, I understand that there's a dispute in particular over the West Bank and how that is being managed. And I think that is a legitimate discussion to have. But they're not taking over Egypt. They're not taking over Jordan. They're not taking over Saudi Arabia. No, in fact, they are reaching out to their Arab neighbors, and they're trying to get them, with the help of the president, the way he's doing it is horrible. It should be a public pronouncement, to get them to join the Abraham Accords, because the leaders of these nations recognize, as you point out, that if we all get along and we're involved in trade with one another, everybody benefits. But if you are going to have your proxies in Gaza come over on October the 7th and commit an atrocity that on a per capita basis was far greater than 9/11, and one in which people were being, well, we know what happened to all the people. I don't have to repeat all the horrible things that happened to the victims who were gathered, many of them, at a peace concert, for God's sake. So, no, I think you have to be a little more cautious, if you don't mind, in your articulation, because that's not a fair representation of the Israeli policy.
One more thing.
But then I like.
Yeah, and you also imply that Israel's been public that they would use a nuclear weapon on Iran. Where's that?
No, I don't know about not public.
But you said that. You said that Israel would use a nuclear weapon on Iran.
Yeah, I think they would preemptively in order to prevent Iran getting the nuke.
See, that's probably, there's no way rationally anyone would think that could ever happen.
Well, I don't know about rationally, but I think it is a rationality to think that.
No,
you do the calculation.
This is where this is not a reasonable argument. It's not a reasonable argument.
Well, and also agent says, Pakistan says, if Israel bomb Iran, they're gonna bomb Israel. How come Pakistan didn't come and say, I make sure of Iran doesn't get hands on the nuclear weapon? How come he didn't say that? They can be negotiated.
I'm not exactly sure what you're saying. Yeah, I think it's horrible that Pakistan got the nuke, and that India got the nuke, and that North Korea got the nuke, and that Russia got the nuke, and that China got the nuke. Like, I don't think anyone should have had it. And if anyone, it should have just been the US. Actively prevented anyone else from even trying. That's just
for the record, with no evidence that would happen. A country of 90 million people.
Some context there. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I put the context that this is one of the analyses that I heard, and I am repeating it. I'm not.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, well, the internet, there's a lot of things you can repeat.
One of the analyses that you've heard, you mean the blood libel bullshit that's going on?
Yeah, Gary, this guy's a clown. Why are we even giving him airtime? Seriously, why are we giving this guy airtime? He's a clown, he's a troll, and he's taking us off topic.
You're a little sensitive here. look, I'm very sympathetic to the pro-Israel position. I'm extremely.
Doesn't sound it.
Yeah, I doubt that.
Okay.
It's interesting because the person who told me this claims to be Israeli, but anyway.
Okay,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
there's your
offend anyone. I know
analysis right
people
there.
do get very
So
sensitive.
there's
on
your
this
analysis
stuff.
there. Your analysis comes from somebody who claims to be Israeli,
Yes.
saying that Israel would lose the nuclear weapon. I can tell you for sure
Yes.
that the Israelis have no desire to put
No,
radioactive
not
dust
desire.
over the Middle East.
They don't want it. It's just existential, like defensive move.
Okay. Thank you.
And Gary, also, this agent, this gentleman claimed he knows a lot of Persian friends. And all of them, they are saying this. I was wondering if he ever asked them, no Persian, I promise you my life on this. No Persian is going to say, this regime are Iranian.
Gary, that was
this
a bunch.
regime, they are not Iranian.
That was a bunch of propaganda trope that we unfortunately just had to put 5 minutes to just now.
Okay, well, I think he exposed himself. Thank you for that, I think. Agent, we'll go to William, followed by David.
Hey, the purpose, as I understand it, of having nuclear weapons is as a deterrent. As far as I know, and I could be wrong, Israel has never formally even announced that it has a nuclear weapon. People assume that Israel has a nuclear weapon, but my understanding, and I could be wrong, is that they never announced that they have a nuclear
Well,
weapon.
maybe that plant is really not a nuclear plant, but they're just claiming it's nuclear. And
No. That's not what I'm
That's
saying. No, you're going off on a tangent that
no, I'm not. I'm just saying. Maybe. How do we know that they have the nuclear weapon?
I'm just saying the official position. I'm not saying that they do or they don't.
No, I'm just saying maybe they don't. We don't know. We don't know for sure. Have they conducted
They certainly have the skills. They certainly have the skills.
Have they done any underground testing?
I don't know.
No, I don't think so.
However, to get back to what I was saying, the purpose of a nuclear threat, as I understand it, is as a deterrent for from other people to attack your sovereignty. That's my understanding of what the rationale is for the nuclear weapons. Not because you're advocating to go into another country and light them up with an atomic bomb or a hydrogen bomb, but just as a deterrent from others not to do so to you.
Right, and so you do not hear Israel say, we want to wipe Iran off the map.
Agreed.
But we hear Iran and its proxies say, we want to wipe Israel off the map. Because they believe that the Israelis illegally hold that land, which is not their land. That's what they believe.
They spread through proxies and in their own IRGC a web of basically terrorist armies throughout or groups throughout the Middle East.
Right. So that kills right there the argument which we have heard on the stage here. Well, if Israel has the right to have the nuclear weapon, why shouldn't Iran? Because Iran is not Israel, and Iran is not the United States, and Iran is not China or Russia, all of whom we presume would do everything in its power to avoid nuclear Armageddon. These are people whose religious belief is Armageddon.
It's my understanding
so why would you give them the tools of Armageddon?
I certainly would choose not to do so.
Right.
Okay. Now, it's my understanding, actually, that the previous Ayatollah, who's dead now, who's recently dead, actually had a fatwa against employing nuclear weapons. He wanted to destroy Israel, for sure, and wipe Israel, the little Satan, and America, the big Satan, off the map, but not through, he wasn't advocating to do so through nuclear weapons. That's my understanding. I could be wrong. But that the younger replacement maybe more radical than the older one. And again, that's beyond my level of expertise. I'm just repeating what I heard reported. But the use as a deterrent, Iran has learned, or actually demonstrated that they have another deterrent to protect their sovereignty. And that deterrent is shutting down the Strait of Hormuz, which they can pretty much do inexpensively with the conventional weapons that they have, with mines, with drones, with missiles. They can shut that down when they please, when they want. And they've demonstrated that to the world. So that they can knock off, they can hold hostage the world economy. And they have a weapon of deterrence that's a non-nuclear weapon. Again, I would love to see these guys out of power. I think they're oppressive. I'm not a fan of authoritarian theocracies, and actually they not just authoritarian, but people that say that everybody has to believe what they believe, and that just really brutal forms of oppression that the Iranian people have suffered. So I would love it if somebody could come up with a way to help the Iranian people take their country back. And I don't know what that is. And if the Iranian people can tell us how we can help, that would be wonderful. And so I'd love to see this theocracy out of power, so that the Iranian people who don't want to live under this regime, who don't want the theocracy, can take their country back and get this, and from what I understand, this foreign implant out of power in their country. Once that's done, I think we will find that the successor can't be worse. It's got to be better. So that's the only way. And as far as this talk about nuclear dust, that's silly. You were using the term. I think they have 60% enriched uranium, which is different than plutonium. And I put some articles in the chat about the difference between atomic bombs and hydrogen bombs. And they're used in different ways. And like an atomic bomb is the first stage of setting off a hydrogen bomb, which is difference between fusion and fission. And you can take a look at the article, but uranium is not the same as plutonium. And I think what they have is enriched uranium. I think Trump doesn't understand what he's talking about, because neither of those things are nuclear dust. The closest thing I can think of this nuclear dust is the yellow cake uranium, which is a early stage in refinement for making a more potent enriched uranium. But that's the business about dust, I think, is just reflects a lack of understanding.
Did I say plutonium when I should have said uranium?
You did.
Okay, I apologize. I didn't realize I did that. He is referring, when he says no dust, no deal, to the surrender or destruction of highly enriched uranium. And I misspoke, and I appreciate you correcting me on that.
I'm not faulting you. I mean, you're not.
I'm not saying you are. If I misspoke, I want to be corrected. I don't want to be wrong. So you're correct that Ali Khamenei did issue a long-standing fatwa that declared that the production, stockpiling, and use of nuclear weapons is forbidden under Islamic law. But it is also true that Mujtaba, who is his son, is never reaffirmed this decree, and he's seen as a hardliner. In other words, stronger on the issue than his dead dad. But even that fatwa, if in fact they issued a long-standing fatwa that declared the production, stockpiling, and use of nuclear weapons forbidden under law, why were they continuing the enrichment program? So, do as I say, but don't do as I do, I guess. I mean, so what if he had such a fatwa? It was meaningless because he violated his own decree. This is proof, if we don't have enough proof, that this regime cannot be trusted.
Neither can North Korea, and I don't know that we're going to be in any position to actually go in there and get the highly enriched uranium, which is likely dispersed onto multiple sites throughout a very large country of 93 million people, without having boots on the ground, without having troops going in there to get it. You're just not going to be able to get it out in any other way that I can see. I mean, their economy is crushed. They've been under sanctions. They still have other countries they trade with. Russia is a big backer. China gives them some help. And they have overland routes across Asia to China. I think there's a railway that's recently been completed in that Belt Road Initiative. So I think they have other ways to get material in and out of the country other than by water, which is the most efficient way to do it by water and not by rail or by truck or by air. But they're not completely closed off, and I don't see, unless the Iranian people, unless we empower the Iranian people to take their country back, the majority of the Iranian people, from my understanding, I don't see how we're going to do it unless there is a willingness of the population and a commitment to put troops into Iran and to fight it out. And that is probably politically untenable in the United States, and may or may not be successful. But they're not just going to cough. They're just not going to cough up this nuclear material that they have, and they already said that they're not giving it to a third country. So, whether or not they go forward and make either an atomic bomb or a hydrogen bomb is a completely it's a different order. Do they have the knowledge? Are they people that have the skills, the knowledge, the education, the technical expertise to make weapons? Yeah, they appear to be. They certainly are. I'd be surprised if they weren't. So, I don't know how else they can be deterred from going forward if that's what they want to do.
Thank you, William. It looks like we're coming to close to a close here. Maybe other hands will come up, but in case they don't, I want to just address two things. One, if anybody here is here as a result of a link that they got off of Facebook to join us, could you go back to Facebook and send me a direct message telling me that? Because I'd like to know how many people came in via Facebook today. The second thing is with regard to the question that Agent, and I think Howard, maybe his nickname is apropos, Agent Malone had to say about Pakistan. And I just want to address that question about Pakistan. Pakistan was the host country for Osama bin Laden after 9/11. And if there's any question in anybody's mind about whether the Pakistani government was aware that he was in exile in their country, one only needs to look at the mission that resulted in his demise by the Navy SEALs. The important part of that mission, vis-a-vis today's discussion, is the United States violated the sovereignty of a nation, Pakistan, to get public enemy number one in its hands. Because had they notified Pakistan and had they asked for a joint operation and had they been given the green light by the Pakistani government, they knew that he would have been tipped off. So that tells you everything you need to know about the government of Pakistan. And I, for one, and I'm speaking strictly for myself, obviously, wish that the United States policy would be definitive right now in support of the government of India and in absolute opposition of the government of Pakistan. It's a terrorist regime as well. How they get involved in, just like how Doha gets involved in negotiations to help settle this conflict between the United States and Iran is frankly laughable. In my opinion, I could be wrong, but I think history will prove once again that I am right. I really feel confident enough to arrogantly declare that right now.
You are absolutely right, Gary. It amazed me. They want to argue with the mullahs, and they go have a negotiation guy, which is the mullah in the suit. It proves to the world Pakistan, after Ataturk, it's just another terrorist Islamic country. That's it. Nothing else, nothing more.
Thank you, Alan. David, followed by El Normo, our prodigal son. Dave?
Hey, Gary. Good to be back on the stage. I want to address the Pakistani comments, kind of look at it from a high-level perspective. The United States did technically, they helped Pakistan with some technical training on the nukes, and they kind of turned a blind eye to them developing it because they were on our side against the Soviets. So this was a geopolitical Cold War play here. The United States didn't really care so much about.
So this goes back to this goes back to the philosophy, David. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. No. The enemy of your enemy is aligned with you in that particular conflict, but he is not your friend. That is a big miscalculation.
Okay. Well, yeah. And many argue that Pakistan is basically a military with a country, not the other way around. So, and they've obviously been aligned with a lot of our policies. And India was more of a friend of the Soviet Union. That's why Modi continued to buy Russian oil even after the massive destruction they brought on Ukraine. They have that Cold War allyship that they still haven't let go of. So there's that. And we were assisting Pakistan in relation to that because we didn't know what side of the fence India was going to come on.
So I'll take the other side of the coin on that one and say the friend of my enemy is my enemy. No. The friend of my enemy is aligned with my enemy on his need for the oil. That does not necessarily make him my enemy. It's very one-dimensional the way this works in the area of diplomacy and everything, and I don't understand why. Very one-dimensional in the way the outlook. I don't know if that's coming from the CIA. I don't know whether it's coming from the DIA. I don't know whether it's coming from one of the other alphabet soups. But this is the way they look at these things, and history has shown that that's a miscalculation.
Well, of course, and we miscalculate. It's not perfect. But take it back even further, when we look at the demise of the Shah and what replaced him under the Carter administration, Carter was putting pressure on the Shah to liberalize their economy, liberalize the press. And what happened when the Shah released some of those strictures? The press came out and had all these anti-Shah campaigns leveled against him, and more or less got him ousted out of the country, setting the stage for the Ayatollah to come in. And again, once again, Gary, we had a difficult choice to make. Do we allow the Ayatollah to pivot into the Soviet orbit, or we choose the lesser of two evils, which was the Islamic orbit? And the Islamic orbit won out, and we saw that as a better deal for us because once again,
except guess what? There is an alliance between the Islamic orbit and the former Soviet orbit anyways. So what was the choice there? You know, maybe the choice would have been, maybe the choice would have been the Jimmy Carter approach. Let the Iranian people decide democratically themselves who they want to lead them. If that had happened, then I would have no problem with whatever Iran is doing today.
Well, we did that. They did play book in the 50s, and we ousted their elected guy. We remember Mossadegh, the Mossadegh campaign that was against the Shah, and the people wanted Mossadegh, and Mossadegh wanted to nationalize the oil. He didn't like the raw deal that the Iranian people were getting with the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company, which was BP, British Petroleum. I think the Iranians were getting 25% for every dollar that was pulled out of the country. So
right. So here we go again.
More money.
Here we go again. The enemy of my friend is my enemy. So we oust him to make room because the Brits wanted him gone. Am I right?
Yeah, but
not
only that, Gary. We had an agenda afoot based upon several historical references that I've studied that we wanted to dismantle the French and the British Empire, and when we ousted Mossadegh, guess what? We made Iran more American than British. It became a little America within the Middle East, and Alan can speak to this. That Iranians were really pivoting toward our way of life, and the Shah was bringing all of our influence. So we sort of dismantled the British with one fell swoop with that move there in Iran.
David is right.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you. But I want to liken today with the Strait of Hormuz to a similar fiasco that brought the Great Britain and France and Israel in when that was the Suez Crisis of 1957. That was sort of the apex of British
Empire. Yeah, when Eisenhower brought them into a room and smacked all their heads together and told them to get their shit straight, basically.
Basically, yeah, exactly. I don't know if that was verbatim, Marshall, but yeah, it was.
No, it's not verbatim. I got it from a book called Ike's Bluff, and it's about Eisenhower being the first nuclear-powered president. And they recite the Suez Crisis, and in the reciting of the Suez Crisis, you learn that Eisenhower was not happy with either of the three powers for doing it. He was furious with the Europeans and was furious with Israel for doing stuff.
Yeah, and we shut it down. We opened up the Suez, and that was also the part of the demise of the British Empire. The British Empire basically had to take a backseat to our foreign policy, and they got in line with all that. But now we're facing, I think, that similar crisis today with the Suez. With the Hormuz issue, because we're not able to flex our power to where we can take this middle power, Iran, this IRGC regime, and bring them to heel. We're not able to bring them to heel, Gary. And I want to focus again on diplomacy, because I think at the end of the day, Gary, it may not have served the long-term agenda of keeping Iran with nukes, but the Obama, Kerry, JCPOA alliance that we put together to rein in the Ayatollah and to provide some sunlight with the International Atomic Energy Agency and the inspectors and all of that went on was a far better deal than we have today. Don't take my word for it. Take the retired generals of the IDF who came on the record saying that JCPOA, the retired general, Lieutenant General Eisenkot, said that the JCPOA kicked the can down the road maybe 10, 15 years of keeping Iran from getting nuclear weapons. Another general, a guy by the name of Golan, Major General Golan, he also said the same thing. He was concerned that by dismantling the JCPOA, we dismantled and we created mistrust with the Iranian regime. We sowed mistrust with our allyship in creating alliances. Fast forward today with Trump and the bluster and everything else that's dismantled the NATO alliance, and we don't have any friends now to help us out with this debacle that we're mired in. So these former heads of the IDF generalship are speaking what a lot of the experts are saying, Gary. And again, could they have cheated on the deal if everybody held the line, Gary, followed their what they signed up for? And as Ronald Reagan said, you trust but verify. I think the dismantling of the deal was a bad situation for everybody in the world. And now we're playing this game of it's not funny. I mean, people are laughing, but it's not funny. And now the whole world's held hostage, by this regime, and we've given them more power than they deserve. And now we're and to Marshall's point, boots on the ground. I mean, his line of questioning is very interesting because at the end of the day, do you look at your child and say, all right, son, you might have to join the military? I got a nephew right now. He's looking at joining the Marine Corps, 19 years old. And I told my sister, I said, Diana, I said, John better be ready to fight, because if this thing goes to the mat, that's where he's going right now. So you have to look your family members in the eye and say, okay, am I willing to lose more of my own children for this campaign here? And those are the questions, Gary, that every politician, every president who sat in office that's had to make big picture decisions is doing, is they're sending our children to war. And at the end of the day, okay, I don't know who's doing the thumbs up. I want you to march down to the military ops and see if you can join up. And I want you to put your name on the line and tell me who you are. But this is what we're facing with, Gary. And unless this is not funny, people think this is funny, but it's not funny. It's real life. I mean, so Gary, at the end of the day, Trump's got himself in a bit of a pickle, and the answers and the decisions that we have to make are not good. But I'm telling you right now, Gary, the United States and the world at large, China especially, they're about business. They're about making money. We have our ideologies. We have our communism. We have all of that. But at the end of the day, they want to put money in their coffers. And this is stopping that sacrosanct mission and agenda of growing markets and putting money in the bank. And war is not going to advance that any further than it already has. So anyway, Alan, you want to say something? I'm going to land. Thank you.
I think Alan.
I'm sorry, I forgot.
Yeah.
No, David, I didn't mean to laugh at you. It was just funny the way you catched it right away.
Okay, gotcha.
So remember the movie Hook with Robin Williams? He played Peter Pan.
You're the only person who saw that, Gary.
That was a terrific movie, and a lot of people saw it. When he was talking to his son Jack, he said, "My word is my bond." And so Jack's response to his father, Peter Pan, was much the same as the world looks at the United States now with regard to our world. He says, "My word is my bond," and Jack replies, "Yeah, junk bonds." So, not to argue whether the JCPOA was a good or a bad agreement. It was an agreement. The United States made an agreement, much like the NATO agreement. So when you reach an agreement such as that, the subsequent administrations adhere to that agreement. It's sort of like I've got a contractual obligation, whether it's to my employees or to companies that I'm dealing with my company, my corporation. And I sell my corporation to Norm. He assumes those liabilities. He can't just say, well, now I own Gary Incorporated, and I don't have to pay my employees, or I don't have to pay my suppliers. There's an agreement that transcends ownership, or in this case, administrations. So I would argue that even if you don't like the JCPOA, you got the agreement.
charioteer of the east, Lord of the past and of the future. I see by mine own inward light, Lord of resurrection, who cometh forth from the dust, and my birth is from the house of death. Thou art still nameless to eternity. Come thou forth, I say, and aid and guard me in this work of art. Gnostic Catholic Church, the Order of the Knights of the Holy Ghost, the Order of the Illuminati, the Order of the Temple, Knights Templar, the Order of the Knights of St. John, the Order of the Knights of Mountain, the Order of the Knights of the Holy Sepulchre, the Hidden Church of the Holy Grail, the Hermetic Brotherhood of Light, the Holy Order of Rose Creek Theater, the Order of the Holy Royal Archer Clock, the Ancient Tennessee Rites of Masonry, the Rites of Louis, the Rites of Israel, the Ancient and Accepted Scottish Rite of Masonry, the Swedish Love of Masonry, the Order of the Montanists, the Order of the Sapphire, and many other orders of equal merit, if of less fame. My object all sublime, I keep it in my mind. A needle made of light, threading through the night. I mark the hidden sea, I sharpen up the dream. The case is cold but clear. I waited long enough here. So let it come around, let the devil kiss the ground. I want the scales to sing on the edge of everything, to make the punishment fit the crime. To make the punishment fit the crime. Fit the crime. My object all sublime. Shall achieve in time. You wore the borrowed face, you left no kind of grace. But every lie you spun turns back beneath the sun. I kept the final clue, like a blade inside my shoe. Now every step you take feels like the earth might break. So let it come around, let the devil kiss the ground. I want the scales to sing on the edge of everything, If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I have held on long to the shape of what was lost, to the price, to the cost, to make the punishment fit the crime. My object all sublime, I keep it in my mind. A needle made of light, threading through the night. I mark the hidden steam, I sharpen up the dream. The case is cold but clean. I've waited long enough here, so let it come around. Let the devil kiss the ground. I want the scales to see on the edge of everything, to make the punishment fit the crime, fit the crime, make the punishment fit the crime, fit the crime. My object always sublime, I shall achieve in time. You wore the borrowed face, you left no kind of grace, but every lie you spun turns back beneath the sun. I kept the final clue, like a blade inside my shoe. Now every step you take feels like the earth might break. So let it come around, let the candle kiss the ground. I want the scales to sing on the edge of everything, to make the punishment fit the crime, fit the crime, make the punishment fit the crime, fit the crime. My object all sublime, I shall achieve in time. And if I'm wrong, but I have hung on to the shape of what is lost, to the promise, to the cause, to make the punishment fit the crime, fit the crime, make the punishment fit the crime, fit the crime. My object goes Houses will be established for their convenience, should they wish to take advantage of them. 69B Order offers great social advantages to its members, bringing them as it does into constant association with men and women of high rank. 70. The Order offers extraordinary opportunities to its members in their trades, businesses, or professions, aiding them by cooperation and securing their clients or customers. Elevate House! Elevate House! 71. The Order offers friendship to its members, bringing together men and women of similar character, taste, and aspiration. 70. The secrecy of the Order provides its members with an inviolable shroud of concealment. 70. The crime of slander, which causes so great a proportion of human misery, is rendered extremely dangerous, if not impossible, within the Order by a clause in the obligation of the third degree. Every brother shall seek constantly to give pleasure to all brethren with whom he is acquainted, whether by entertainment or conversation, or in any other manner that may suggest itself. It will frequently and naturally arise that love itself springs up between members of the Order, for that they have so many and sacred interests in common. Such love is peculiarly holy and is to be encouraged. All children of brethren are to be considered as children of the whole Order, and to be protected and aided in every way by its members, severally, as by its organization collectively. No distinction is to be made with regard to the conditions surrounding the birth of any child. 15. There is an especially sacred duty which every brother should fulfill with regard to all children, those born without the Order included. This duty is to instruct them in the law of the Lima, to teach them independence and freedom of thought and character, and to warn them that servility and cowardice are the most deadly diseases of the human soul. The Showstone, a crystal which Dee alleged to have been brought to him by angels, was then placed upon this table, and the principal result of the ceremonial scrying of Sir Edward Kelly is the obtaining of the following: diagrams, plates, 5 wing. He symbolized the fourth dimension. two-dimensional universe, in two dimensions as a square, surrounded by 30 concentric circles, whose radii increased in a geometrical proportion. The sides of the square are the 4 great watchtowers, which are attributed to the elements. There is also a black cross, central tablet according to the arrangement shown. Compare the black cross bordering the tablets in plate A with plate V. Plate V gives the general view. Plate 4 gives the complete attribution of the tablet of air. The 6th file is called linea patris. The 7th file is called linea filii. The 7th line is called linea spiritus sancti. This great cross divides the tablet into 4 lesser tablets, the left-hand top corner being air of air, the right-hand top corner water of air, the left-hand bottom corner earth of air, the remaining corner fire of air. Each of these lesser tablets contains a Calvary cross of 10 squares, which governs it. Plates V, VI, and VII are similar for the other element. This is the way in which the names are drawn from the great tablets. Next, the following text is between the points of the pentagram, starting at upper right. The words below are arced in a circle. As I letters around the rim are Enochian letters, facing outward in the illustration, including the corner letters facing toward the outer point of each corner. The two overlapping equilateral triangles shown in the interior of the figure are composed of thin, solid lines and somewhat closer in their bases to the top and bottom of the square than shown here. In the illustration, the base angles touch the fourth edge letter from the corner in each instance. The rectangular grid with Enochian letters in the center of the diagram has been adjusted to align with the edge letters of the original illustration. This rectangular grid has its corners overlapping, lines defining the hexagram in the original illustration. There are 7 small devices, 5 squares and 2 circles symmetrically arranged in the pattern of a 7-pointed star with point upward. There is no actual 7-pointed star drawn. These devices are all oriented to be viewed from the center of the figure. Their size is about that of 3-edged divisions vertically and horizontally, and their text would be at right angles to any straight line that might be drawn from the center of the figure. These devices have been represented by the numbers 1 through 7 in the approximation above. They are separately approximated below. Not to scale. Mine is the head of the hawk. Abrahadabra. And ends. 6. I bear the rose and cross of life and light. Abrahadabra. Giving the sign at each Abrahadabra. Remaining in the sign. The invocation concludes. Therefore I say unto thee, come thou forth and dwell in me, so that every spirit, whether of the firmament, or of the ether, or of the earth, or under the earth, on dry land or in the water, a whirling air or of rushing fire, and every spell and scourge of God the Vast One, might be thee. Abrahadabra. The adoration. Impromptu. banishing. I think this was omitted at W's order. Mine is the head of the man, and my inside is keen as the hawks. By my head I invoke thee. Hey, I am the only begotten child of my father and mother. My father is dead. My mother bore me with labor and pain and fear. By my body I invoke thee. About me shine the diamonds of radiance, white and pure. By their brightness I invoke thee. Mine is the red triangle reverse, the sign given of none save it be of thee. O Lord, by the Lamb and I invoke thee. 3, mine is the garment of white, sewn with gold, the flashing obey that I wear. By my robe I invoke thee. Mine is the sign of Apophis and Typhon. By the sign I invoke thee. 4 is the turban of white and gold, and mine the blue vigor of the intimate air. By my crown I invoke thee. My fingers travel on the beads of pearl, so run I after thee in thy car of glory. By my fingers I invoke thee. 5, I bear the wand of double power in the voice of the master Abraham Abra. By the word I invoke thee. Mine are the dark blue waves of music in the song that I made of old to invoke thee. Strike, strike the master chord, draw the flaming sword, crown, child and conquering Lord, Horus, Avenger. By the song I invoke thee. 6, in my hand is thy sword of revenge, let it strike at thy bidding. By the sword I invoke thee. The voice of the fire, the voice of the fire, the voice of the city. 11 are the voices, Abraham Abra. Strike the master chord. The unfathomable glory of the outmost ether, the untraveled, the unthinkable immensity of space. Thou who concentrest all the 30 ethers in one darkling sphere of fire. The I invoke. So thou who bearest the frozen rose of life and life, the I invoke. The voice of the five, the voice of the six, 11 other voices. Strike the master chord, draw the flaming sword, crown, child and conquering lord, Horus, avenger, O thou of the head of the hawk, thee I invoke. At every thee I invoke, throughout the whole of the ritual, give the sign of Apophis. The only begotten child of Osiris, thy father, and Isis, thy mother, he that was slain, she that bore thee in her womb, flying from the terror of the water. Thee I invoke. No suffering is a flashing white, whiter than the forehead of the morning. Thou hast formulated thy father, and made fertile thy father. I invoke. Thou whose garment is of the golden glory, with the azure birds of sky. I invoke. Didst avenge the horror of death, thou the slayer of Typhon? Thou who didst lift thine arms, and the dragons of death were as dust? Thou who didst raise thine head, and the crocodile of Nile was abased before thee? Hide the universe with night, the impermeable blue. Who travelest in the boat of Ra, abiding at the helm of the of-death boat and of the Thou who bearest the wand of double power, a fraud. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is a scam. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is the tax. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is a liar. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is a criminal. Borrows $1.3 billion to give to Cronny Non. Profits the seat to you is a mafia propaganda. Organization affordability is a scam. Brandon Johnson is the tax. Open the books, transparency now. Public spending tracker now. Brandon Johnson is the tax. Brandon Johnson is the tax. Brandon Johnson is a scam. Reparations for black slaves is a scam. It's a black tax socialists are taxologists. All taxation is theft. Affordability is a scam. Abortion Greyhound buses are murder for profits. Open the books, transparency now. Public spending tracker now. Brandon Johnson is the tax. Brandon Johnson is the tax. Brandon Johnson is the scam. You sent out paychecks with a smiling mask. Call it care, call it change. While you wear the hat, your friends at the table, eating out the back. We're stuck in the checkout line, doing the math. You borrowed a mountain full of parking lot dreams, sign your name on it, down it like it's free, free, free. We wake up blessed with the red ink screens. Every promise on paper feels cheap to me. Brandon Johnson is the tax. We're the ones who pay it back. All the bills and all the spends. The cash goes out, we're locked in. Open up the books right now. Show the numbers line by line. Transparency on every track. Brandon Johnson is the tax. You call it for the people, but the doors stay closed. Same names on the contracts, every story we're told. You preach about affordable, then raise the toll. Whole city in a chokehold, just to feed your own. We're tired of slogans on a pretty blue sign. Want a public spending tracker in real time. Not another photo op on our dime. We're done with the fiction, this is our line. Brandon Johnson is a tag. We're the ones who pay it back. All the bills and all the spends. The cash goes out, we're locked in. Open up the books right now. Show the numbers line by line. Transparency on every track. Brandon Johnson is a tag. We want receipts. Every cent, every check, every ring. Turn the lights to the ceiling, to the cracks, till the shadows pull back, pull back. the truth all the time. It's screams in the hotel season flash. Brandon Johnson is the tag. Brandon Johnson is the tag. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is a fraud. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is a scam. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is the tax. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is a liar. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is a criminal. Or else why we have to get a criminal? CTU is a mafia propaganda organization and criminal that he is a scam. Brandon Johnson is the tax. The push transparency now. Expedition now. Brandon Johnson is the snake. Brandon Johnson is the scam. Liberation from black slaves is a scam. It's a black socialist, anti-socialist, no taxation, and affordability is a scam. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is a fraud. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is a scam. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is the tax. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is a liar. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is a criminal. Now I bring Brandon Johnson criminal. CTU is a organization. Criminality is a scam. Brandon Johnson is the time. Transparency now. Expedition now. Brandon Johnson is the scandal. Brandon Johnson is the scam. Liberation from black slaves is a scam. It's a black tax socialist. One tax socialist. No taxation. Affordability is a scam. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is a fraud. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is a scam. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is a scam. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is a liar. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is a criminal. Morals want $3 billion to give to crony doctors. The C2 is a mafia propaganda. Organization of portability is a scam. Farman Johnson is a
Transparency now. Public spending tracker now. Brandon Johnson is the tax. Brandon Johnson is a scam. Transparency now. Public spending tracker now. Brandon Johnson is the tax. Brandon Johnson is a scam.
reparations for black slaves is a scam. It's a black tax. Socialists are taxologists. All taxation is theft. Affordability is a scam.
Transparency now. Public spending tracker now. Brandon Johnson is a tax. Brandon Johnson is a scam. Transparency now. Public spending tracker now. Brandon Johnson is a tax. Brandon Johnson is a scam.
Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is a fraud. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is a scam. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is the tax. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is a Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is a criminal. Borrows $1.3 billion to give to crony nonprofits. The CTU is a mafia propaganda organization. Affordability is a scam. Brandon Johnson is the Never the books transparency. Clever spinning tracker now. Brandon Johnson is the tax. Brandon Johnson is the scam. Reparations for black slaves is a scam. It's the black tax. Socialists are taxologists. All taxation is theft. Affordability is a Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is a fraud. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is a scam. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is the tax. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is a liar. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is a criminal. Borrows $1.3 billion to give to crony non-profits. The C2U is a mafia propaganda organization. Affordability is a scam. Brandon Johnson is the tax. Open the books, transparency now. Public spending tracker now. Brandon Johnson is the tax. Brandon Johnson is the scam. reparations for black slaves is a scam. It's a black tax, socialism, taxologists, all taxation is theft. Affordability is a scam. I am the charioteer of the east, Lord of the past and of the future. I see by mine own inward light, Lord of resurrection, who cometh forth from the dust, and my birth is from the house of death. By whatever name I call thee, thou art still nameless to eternity. Come thou forth, I say, and aid and guard me in this work of art.
The Gnostic Catholic Church, the Order of the Knights of the Holy Ghost, the Order of the Illuminati, the Order of the Temple, Knights Templar, the Order of the Knights of St. John, the Order of the Knights of Mountain, the Order of the Knights of the Holy Sepulchre, the Hidden Church of the Holy Grail, the Hermetic Brotherhood of Light, the Holy Order of Rosicrucian, the Order of the Holy Royal Arch and Clock, the Ancient Tennessee Rites of Masonry, the Rites of Louis, the Rites of Mystery, the Ancient and Accepted Scottish Rite of Masonry, the Swedish Royal Love of Masonry, the Order of the Martinists, the Order of the Sapphire, and many other orders of equal merit, if of less fame.
My object all sublime, I keep it in my mind. A needle made of light, threading through the night. I mark the hidden sea, I sharpen up the dream. The case is cold but clear, I waited long enough here. So let it come around, let the devil kiss the ground. I want the scales to sing on the edge of everything, to make the punishment fit the crime. Fit the crime. To make the punishment fit the crime. Fit the crime. And my object of sublime shall achieve in time. You wore the borrowed face, you left no kind of grace. But every lie you spun turns back beneath the sun. I kept the final clue, like a blade inside my shoe. Now every step you take feels like the earth might break. So let it come around, let the devil kiss the ground. I want the scales to sing on the edge of everything, to make the punishment fit the crime. Fit the crime. To make the punishment fit the crime. Fit the crime. My object of sublime shall achieve in time. And if I'm wrong, but I have held on long to the shape of what was lost, to the price, to the cost, to make the punishment fit the crime. Fit the crime. To make the punishment fit the my object all sublime, I keep it in my mind. A needle made of light, threading through the night. I mark the hidden sea, I sharpen up the dream. The
case is cold but clear. I've waited long enough here. So let it come around. Let the devil kiss the ground. I want the scales to stand on the edge of everything to make the punishment fit the crime. Fit the crime. Make the punishment fit the crime. Fit the crime. My object all sublime. I shall achieve in time. You wore the borrowed face. You left no kind of grace. But every lie you spun turns back beneath the sun. I kept the final clue, like a blade inside my shoe. Now every step you take feels like the earth might break. So let it come around. Let the gale kiss the ground. I want the scales to sing on the edge of everything to make the punishment fit the crime. Fit the crime. Make the punishment fit the crime. Fit the crime. My object all sublime. I shall achieve in time. And if I'm wrong, but I have come on to the shape of what is lost to the promise to the crime. To make the punishment fit the crime. Fit the crime. Make the punishment fit the crime. Fit the crime. My object all sublime. I shall achieve in time.
Women of the Order who are about to become mothers receive all care, attention, and honor from all brethren. 68 special profess houses will be established for their convenience, should they wish to take advantage of them. 69 The Order offers great social advantages to its members, bringing them as it does into constant association with men and women of high rank. 70 The Order offers extraordinary opportunities to its members in their trades, businesses, or professions, aiding them by cooperation and securing them clients or customers. Elevate those! Elevate those! 70 The Order offers friendship to its members, bringing together men and women of similar character, taste, and aspiration. 70 The secrecy of the Order provides its members with an inviolable shroud of concealment. 70 The crime of slander, which causes so great a proportion of human misery, is rendered extremely dangerous, if not impossible, within the Order by a clause in the obligation of the third degree. shall seek constantly to give pleasure to all brethren with whom he is acquainted, whether by entertainment or conversation, or in any other manner that may suggest itself. It will frequently and naturally arise that love itself springs up between members of the order, for that they have so many and sacred interests in common. Such love is peculiarly holy and is to be encouraged. All children of brethren are to be considered as children of the whole order, and to be protected and aided in every way by its members, severally, as by its organization collectively. No distinction is to be made with regard to the conditions surrounding the birth of any child. 15. There is an especially sacred duty which every brother should fulfill with regard to all children, those born without the order included. This duty is to instruct them in the law of the Lima, to teach them independence and freedom of thought and character, and to warn them that servility and cowardice are the most deadly diseases of the human soul. The Showstone, a crystal which Dee alleged to have been brought to him by angels, was then placed upon this table, and the principal result of the ceremonial scrying of Sir Edward Kelly is the obtaining of the following diagrams, plates, very. He symbolized the fourth dimensional universe in 2 dimensions as a square, surrounded by 30 concentric circles, whose radii increased in a geometrical proportion. The sides of the square are the 4 great watchtowers, which are attributed to the elements. There is also a black cross, central tablet according to the arrangement shown. Compare the black cross bordering the tablets in plate A with plate V. Plate V gives the general view. Plate 4 gives the complete attribution of the tablet of air. The 6th file is called linea patris. The 7th file is called linea filii. The 7th line is called linea spiritus sancti. This great cross divides the tablet into 4 lesser tablets, the left-hand top corner being air of air, the right-hand top corner water of air, the left-hand bottom corner earth of air, the remaining corner fire of air. Each of these lesser tablets contains a Calvary cross of 10 square.
which governs it. Plates V, VI, and VII are similar for the other element. This is the way in which the names are drawn from the great tablets. Next, the following text is between the points of the pentagram, starting at upper right. The words below are arced in a circle. The letters around the rim are Enochian letters, facing outward in the illustration, including the corner letters facing toward the outer point of each corner. The two overlapping equilateral triangles shown in the interior of the figure are composed of thin, solid lines and somewhat closer in their bases to the top and bottom of the square than shown here. In the illustration, the base angles touch the fourth edge letter from the corner in each instance. The rectangular grid with Enochian letters in the center of the diagram has been adjusted to align with the edge letters of the original illustration. This rectangular grid has its corners overlapping the lines defining the hexagram in the original illustration. devices. 5 squares and 2 circles symmetrically arranged in the pattern of a 7-pointed star with point upward. There is no actual 7-pointed star drawn. These devices are all oriented to be viewed from the center of the figure. Their size is about that of 3-edged divisions vertically and horizontally, and their text would be at right angles to any straight line that might be drawn from the center of the figure. These devices have been represented by the numbers 1 through 7 in the approximation above. They are separately approximated below. Not to scale. Mine is the head of the hawk. Abrahadabra. And ends.
6. I bear the rose and cross of life and light.
Abrahadabra.
Giving the sign at each Abrahadabra.
Remaining in the sign. The invocation concludes.
Therefore I say unto thee, come thou forth and dwell in me, so that every spirit, whether of the firmament, or of the ether, or of the earth, or under the earth, on dry land or in the water, a whirling air of rushing fire, and every spell and scourge of God the Vast One, might be thee.
Abrahadabra. The adoration. Impromptu. Close by banishing.
I think this was omitted at W's order.
Mine is the head of the man, and my inside is keen as the hawks. By my head I invoke thee. Hey, I am the only begotten child of my father and mother. My father is dead. My mother bore me with labor and pain and fear. By my body I invoke thee. About me shine the diamonds of radiance, white and pure. By their brightness I invoke thee. Mine is the red triangle reverse, the sign given of none save it be of thee. O Lord, by the Lamb and I invoke thee. 3. Mine is the garment of white, sewn with gold, the flashing obey that I wear. By my robe I invoke thee. Mine
My fingers travel on the beads of pearl, so run I after thee in thy car of glory. By my fingers I invoke thee.
5, I bear the wand of double power in the voice of the master Abrahadabra. By the word I invoke thee.
Mine are the dark blue waves of music in the song that I made of old to invoke thee.
Strike, strike the master chord, draw the flaming sword crown, child and conquering Lord Horus, avenger. By the song I invoke thee.
6. In my hand is thy sword of revenge, let it strike at thy bidding. By the sword I invoke thee. The voice of the 5,
The voice of the 5,
the voice of the 6,
11 are the voices Abrahadabra. Strike the master chord. Draw the flaming sword. Crowned child and conquering Lord Horus, avenger. Thou the head of the whole. The iron folk, thou only begotten child of Osiris thy father, and Isis thy mother, he that was slain, she that bore thee in her womb, flying from the terror of the water. The iron folk, oh, whose apron is a flashing white, whiter than the forehead of the morning. The iron Thou whose garment is of the golden glory, with the azure bars of sky. Thou who didst avenge the horror of death, thou the slayer of Typhon, thou who didst lift thy arms, and the dragons of death were as dust. Thou who didst raise thine head, and the crocodile of Nile was abased before thee. For those nemes hideth the universe with night, the impermeable blue, the iron thou who travelest through the walls of rock, awaiting the hells of the omnipotent of the scented bones. The iron folk, thou who bearest the wand of double power. The iron folk, thou about whose presence is shed the darkness of blue light. The unfathomable glory unspeakable immensity of space. Thou who concentrest all the 30 ethers in one darkling sphere of fire. The I invoke. So thou who bearest the rose and rose of life and light. The I invoke. The voice of the five, the voice of the six, 11 other voices. Strike the master chord, draw the flaming sword, crown, child and conquering lord, horse, avenger, O thou of the head of the hawk, thee I invoke. At every thee I invoke, throughout the whole of the ritual, give the sign of Apophis. The only begotten child of Osiris, thy father, and Isis, thy mother, he that was slain, she that bore thee in her womb, flying from the temper of the water. Thee I invoke. Nose upward is a flashing white, whiter than the forehead of the morning. Thou hast formulated thy father, and made fertile thy father. Thou whose garment is of the golden glory, with the azure bars of sky. Didst avenge the horror of death, thou the slayer of Typhon. Thou who didst lift thine arms, and the dragons of death were as dust. Thou who didst raise thine head, and the crocodile of Nile was abased before thee. That is hideth the universe with night, the impermeable blue.
Johnson is a scam. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is the tax. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is a liar. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is a criminal. Borrows $1.3 billion to give to Crony Non. Profits the C2U is a mafia propaganda. Organization affordability is a scam. Brandon Johnson is the tax. Open the books, transparency now. Public spending tracker now. Brandon Johnson is the tax. Brandon Johnson is the tax. Brandon Johnson is a scam. Reparations for black slaves is a scam. It's a black tax socialists are taxologists. All taxation is theft. Affordability is a scam. Abortion Greyhound buses are murder for profit. Open the books, transparency now. Public spending tracker now. Brandon Johnson is the tax. Brandon Johnson is the tax. Brandon Johnson is the scam. You stamped our paychecks with a smiling mask. Call it care, call it change. While you pass the hat, your friends at the table eating out the back. We're stuck in the checkout line, doing the math. You borrowed a mountain for a parking lot dream. Sign your name on it, down on it like it's free, free, free. We wake up to letters with the red ink screams. Every promise on paper feels cheap to me. Brandon Johnson is the tax. We're the ones who pay it back. All the pills and all the spin. The cash goes out, we're locked in. Open up the books right now. Show the numbers line by line. Transparency on it. Brandon Johnson is a tax. You calling for the people, but the door stay closed. We're the ones who pay it back. All the bills are all the spin. Cash goes out, we're locked in. Open up the books right now. Show the numbers right. Transparency on it. Transparency on it.
I try the brightest prices also since that I think the waves rates.
And then he has this type of law like this is not what it
I'm sorry, you want me to comment on what you just said on the topic? What do I think about that concept? I think some of it has validity and some of it doesn't. That's what I'm. And if I add, I think in some way, that the Supreme Court is, it's not. And I would love to say something else for a minute or two, if that's okay, which hopefully is on point. If not, you can interrupt me and tell me to shut up. Is that okay? What I heard some people say, maybe Ali, and I know Ali defended, okay, because I'm not. But fine, I won't mention anybody's name except mine. No problem. When I have heard different people speaking about the United States Constitution as a concept, what I normally hear them say in addition to that is the reason they say it's a concept is because if you don't have enforcement of the law, then because the law is never enforced, it remains a concept. But as long as you have proper enforcement, then it rises from a concept to the law. I just wanted to say that. Thanks for.
Okay, the Constitution is the law, right? And even if it's the concept, being the concept is the concept of the law. So, being a concept, you can be a concept and a law at the same time, right? But usually, when people refer to something as a concept, they tend to apply it to things not material, right? Which means that here, if someone is saying it's the law, then you just come back and say it's the concept. Now, the Voting Rights Act was not the law in the Constitution, which it was in the Constitution, right? But coming back to the comment of the Supreme Court, like kind of like the Constitution shift to the Supreme Court, in theory, then the Constitution says no, right? The Constitution is written to the court, and there could be a place for regulatory interpretation of the Constitution with what is constitutional and not constitutional. But the Supreme Court doesn't have the power to change the Constitution, and that's in the Constitution. The Constitution has rules how the Constitution can be changed, and the Supreme Court doesn't have the power to do it.
I'm sorry, the Constitution can never be changed. It can be amended. And the purpose of the Supreme Court is to
mean. That's what amendment means.
Well, I'm glad that's what you meant, but I didn't interrupt you. That sounded like you were done. Wow, there are 25, 30 people in the room and everybody understood. No, wrong. Yeah, sure, I'll wait.
And then say, yes, this is constitutional. You're saying that that's right.
No, I'm not saying that at all. You're wrong again. You're 2 for 2. And I'm not going to mention it. And I'm not going to.
As far as I remember, right, first of all,
We're inheriting the Roman Empire. I have no idea what you're talking about. don't think it's okay when the Supreme Court breaks its own rules. But going back to what I said 2 minutes ago, I do not agree with you what you said about the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is designed to interpret the Constitution. Now, I'm not on the computer. I can look this up and do heavy lifting. But that's been the way that I was educated. The Supreme Court it interprets the Constitution. And if anybody disagrees with me, I'll be happy to look it up and I can get it. Okay, good. I'm glad you agree with me. Yes. Yep. Really, who decides what's wrong and what's right?
The Constitution. I mean, if the Supreme Court...
No, Carlos, you're wrong.
Wait, let me speak, Steve, before you say I'm wrong. If the Constitution says that the president can only run twice, and then the Supreme Court comes and says, you know what, presidents can run 4 times, right? It is written in plain English by the Constitution that presidents can only hold office twice. So yes, the Supreme Court could go against the Constitution. That's right. If the Supreme Court came with a saying, hey, presidents can hold office 5 times, is that not against the Constitution?
Well, Carlos, you're wrong. The Constitution doesn't say that the presidents can only hold for 2 terms. It's an amendment to the Constitution. It's an amendment to the Constitution. Yeah.
That's still in the Constitution. Amendment of the Constitutions are the Constitution.
All right. Okay, so now we're taking the position that amendment to the Constitution is the Constitution. Right, no problem.
Well,
okay. No. In that case, the Constitution says presidents are limited to 2 terms. Fine. Not the original Constitution, no. There are amendments to the Constitution. Excuse me, you asked me a question. At least give me 30 seconds to answer. Okay? I've always made a distinguishing difference between the original Constitution and the amendments to the Constitution. But if you want to say they're the same thing, I'll be happy to go along with that. I'm fine.
Are the amendments part of
Well, based on what you're saying, yes. I say no. I say they're amendments. They're different.
But they're not part of
Okay, are amendments part of the original Constitution? Is that what you're asking me?
It's the original. Right? It seems to me there being amendments.
Well, I don't understand why we're getting hung up on this. What's the difference?
Yeah, I don't know what it is. Right? I think that all of them being all of the amendments are right. Right? Everything means everything else was the original.
And that's why I said twice, you want to consider the amendments part of the original Constitution? Fine. Why is this a big deal? Why is this a big deal? Fine, I agree. I agree. How much longer do you want to press it? I'm agreeing now. I said I'm agreeing now. Okay, fine. But go ahead and keep talking about it, even though I already agree. Go ahead.
I think right to the that's the perfect right.
Second Amendment, right? And they interpreted the Second Amendment, right? As being right. Because there have been a lot of arguments about, say, there's right.
bunch of regulations on owning a gun. Every state has individual regulations to own a gun. What are you talking about? Yes. Am I not speaking the truth? Every state has individual regulations for owning a gun. Oh, you didn't say that until just now. Fine. Federal level has regulations to own a gun. Isn't that true? Is it true or not? It's not. Really? So anybody can own a fully automatic F-16. Is that what you're saying?
In the state of Texas?
No, you said you just switched back now. You said federal law 10 seconds ago. Under federal law, can any individual own a fully automatic F-16?
And I see you.
All right, I'll be up. Well, I thought you were finished. I'll be happy to. Okay. Yes, that is what I need. Thank you. I will. I will. I will do that too. I will do that too. I will do that too. All right, great. You know, sometimes you sound like you know what you're talking about. And sometimes you make statements that are completely untrue. To say that, I thought you just said you were going to let me speak uninterrupted. Obviously, you're the one that can't control you. Not sure he knew what he's walking into. And to be honest, I'm not really quite sure what the Constitution talks about.
Well, one of the points that I bring out was that clearly the Supreme Court could contradict the Constitution, right? The Constitution could be in plain English saying, hey, like I gave the example of the president, and then you go all the way at like, oh, it's an amendment, it's not the original Constitution. For this time, as Steve was saying, it's binding. Like right now, currently, with all its amendments to the Constitution are part of the Constitution, right? So the Supreme Court, it's supposed to be bound by it. It cannot rewrite the Constitution. So if something is written in plain English saying that the Constitution says this, and then the Supreme Court directly contradicts it, right? That is, like, I guess, a constitutional crisis, right? Because the Supreme Court cannot do that. And I guess it will take the Congress to step in, right? To, like, impeach the court or something. But my point being is that the Supreme Court doesn't have the power to interpret the Constitution at will. Like, all they can say whatever the fuck they want out of the Constitution, and then it becomes law. That's stupid.
I mean, you're half right about that, right? The problem with what you're saying is the Constitution isn't written in plain English. It's written in highly technical English that does require interpretation. The prose is dense. The prose is technical. The prose is packed with terms. And those terms do require interpretation. And so this idea that
when was the last time you read it?
English.
When was the last time you read it?
I don't know, a couple days ago. Why?
It's not
So the idea that you can read it in plain English is not entirely true. You actually do need some education in order to be able to interpret it effectively.
Wait, okay. Can you pull up the First Amendment? The freedom of speech and religion and everything else. Are you telling me that that's not written in plain English and that you need to be educated in constitutional law to understand what it means?
No, I didn't say you need to be educated in constitutional law. I didn't say that.
Okay.
Right.
So the Second Amendment is very clear, right? The 22nd.
I thought we were doing the First Amendment.
Well,
Yeah, why don't you just
Congress
read the
shall
First
make no
Amendment
law.
for the class? Just read the
Congress
First
shall make
Amendment
no
for the
law
class.
respecting an establishment of religion. I mean, already we're on establishment of religion. That's going to require unpacking.
Oh.
That's going to require unpacking. Establishment of religion requires unpacking as a term, right?
Hold on. I'm a person with no high education. For me, it is very easy to understand what that is.
So unpack it as a term.
You mean unpack what it means?
Yes,
like,
specifically establishment of a religion. Unpack that.
Establishment of a religion is basically like a lot of other countries do in this world, like Russia, for example, where they have one religion as a government religion, right? And that is the Russian Orthodoxy, the Christian Orthodoxy. So other religions don't have the same rights. Their religion that is established by the government, which is supreme to all the other religions. Does that make sense?
I mean, first of all, that doesn't actually unpack the term, right?
It doesn't,
And
because it does say that, like, on most coins and tender, in God we trust. So it is establishing religious aspects.
Right. So for first of all, it doesn't unpack the term of religion. Right. Second,
I want to just say that I
wasn't done yet. Hold on a second, Benjamin. I wasn't done yet. First of all, it doesn't unpack the term establishment of religion. Secondly,
yes, it does.
You used a lot of words there.
I just want to say,
I wasn't done yet, Benjamin. Benjamin, I wasn't done yet. Excuse me. You can wait your turn, Benjamin. Benjamin.
Yeah, you can wait your turn. I just want to point out, I think Katrina nailed this, because the Founding Fathers were clearly saying that they wanted this to be.
What I was saying was that you used
they wanted this country to be different.
Impulse control.
They wanted this country to be different than the country they had already experienced. It's obviously what they meant.
So when we go from France, right, Benjamin? When we look at back in that time, France, England, religion was entangled with government. They went hand in hand. Religion made laws, and that was the.
Well, I think that you're right.
You could not make a religion, one religion, on a government level. That this particular government nation, right? This nation and the government of this nation is only practicing this religion, and this religion is above all the other religions. Period.
I think you were right instinctively, Katrina, that they were writing against their own. They were writing against their own experience.
It's not instinctively. They said that.
Well, sure. I think the issue is, what do we do going forward?
Why are we talking about impulse control when Benjamin interrupted me? Right? I was in the sentence Benjamin interrupted me.
He's
right?
the mod.
I don't give a fuck.
Well, then if you don't.
So why are we talking about impulse control when Benjamin has poor impulse control? Okay, so what I was saying was that you used a lot of words to unpack that term, which demonstrates.
Okay, I am going to kick this person out of the room because there is no humility or just decency.
He thinks we're all chatbots and shit.
Yeah. I don't bring people down. I kick them out of the room, like I said. So if anybody has a problem with that, that's okay. You can let me know, and I won't do that here. Just don't mind it.
What did T do? I don't understand. He was interrupted by Benjamin.
He's the mod.
Yeah, so what? He's Benjamin. Who gives a fuck?
Well, I don't know the dynamic between you guys, but I think if our mod is
Look at that, he's gone.
a conversation.
Yeah, Benjamin's not here no more. So what?
Okay.
Well, I think the conversation got a little bit derailed by T. I mean, it's true that it's true that there is nuances, right? And like, it's written in plain English, but that doesn't mean that there's no nuances in plain English, and there's ambiguity in language in general. So nobody's arguing that there is no need for a court to interpret the law. The point that I'm making is that there is clear statements in the Constitution that are transparent and don't have ambiguity. They're pretty clearly stated. For example, and I give the example, like the president cannot hold office more than twice, right? There's no ambiguity on that. Nobody can say that they can hold office 5 times or 3 times through interpreting and be correct. There's no nuance there to have a court. And if the court were to say that all of a sudden presidents can hold office more than once, they will be essentially against the Constitution. It will be constitutional crisis.
You'd be shocked at the ability for people to interpret that particular clause, Carlos.
Yeah, because they're already making an argument right now. A lot of lawyers, right, are starting to
not a
come
lot,
up with.
But yeah, go ahead.
Well, I mean, a lot of Trump circle lawyers, right? They have a whole team right now who are already, in quotations, interpreting it, right? So basically, the way they are saying it is that the president cannot be elected. Now, what is the word elected? Elected by the people. That means there has to be an election.
The Constitution says hold office. It doesn't say elected. It says hold office.
Elected.
Yeah. No, it
The
says
22nd Amendment says elected.
Hold office. It cannot hold office more than twice.
Okay, somebody pull up the Constitution, the 22nd Amendment. Unless I'm like completely being
No, you're right.
gaslit over here.
No, I'll read it because Carlos is wrong. No person shall be elected to the office of the president more than twice.
Yeah.
And no person who has held the office of the president or acted as president for more than 2 years of the term to which some other person was elected shall be elected to the office of the president more than once.
I'm not talking about the vice president in a situation where the president is incapacitated, the vice president takes over. And if the vice president took over and he held the role of the president or whatever, there's a succession, whatever. And if that person held office for longer than 2 years, that considers already as a term, as a full term. I don't know. It's pretty easy for me to understand this. Why are people saying that this is such a hard language?
It leads to the interesting trivia.
Well, because it furthers it's a presupposition of their argument. And then they just keep going on down the argument when the premise is shit.
Okay, so my original thought-provoking question was, if the Supreme Court interprets the Constitution in the wrong way, right? For example, they pick the word elected and they say, well, the thing is that the president has to be elected. And if there's no elections because, let's just say, for example, we have a national emergency, we just got attacked and there's chaos in the country, right? We're major military defense operation, being bombed, right? Then in that situation, you cannot have elections. So technically, do you see how far this interpretation can go and be manipulated? Yeah. So my question is, when that happens, right, and the Supreme Court says this is constitutional, there is nobody else to pretty much go against them, is there? Because they're the highest court and they are in charge of interpreting the Constitution and making sure the Constitution is followed.
No, I mean, I don't disagree with that. I'm not saying, my argument is not that it cannot happen. My point is that it's against the rules, right? I mean, that in theory, the Constitution could not be
written by the Supreme Court. That's my point. The Constitution says what is the process to be amended, and it's part of that process. Like, let me give you another example. Like the Supreme.
Hold on, nobody was disagreeing with that, and nobody was arguing or debating you on that fact, right?
Well,
I was talking about
Stephen T. were certainly not in agreeing with me, right? But like,
but they're not.
You seem
right
to,
now, right?
Well, when you say nobody, they were here, right? When you say nobody, right? It's and again, when you're talking about someone who refused to talk about like saying the Constitution was legal, was the law, right? It's essentially the same thing as it's been happening to me when it's like until now you're saying like, okay, nobody disagrees with you right now on that point. That's fine, but I would just that's the point that people were arguing before.
Gotcha.
Till this point, we can say.
I gotcha. Okay, well, now we can agree that those people are not here right now. And we can maybe not talk about their points and not bring up their points. That's the thing, because everybody else here kind of agrees and understands that there's a structure of how to change Constitution.
There's two structures.
I was trying to ping Ali in the room, but I don't know how to do it. I think he's, I don't know where he is, but I feel like you guys got off on the wrong foot. Ali's a pretty stand-up guy, in my personal opinion. And he has quite a lot to say about this stuff. But it's not really.
Elliot, I appreciate you. And I can see that you have a lot of affinity for this person. Nothing against that, right? I would
Is anybody else
like to
app
make
like
my
messing
own
up right
opinion.
now? For some reason, the audio just cuts out, and it's just I'm not gonna leave.
Are you on Androids?
Anyways, I think somebody that has a personal bias against
Katrina, I think you've had quite a day. A lot of conversation with a lot of different people. Most of them seem half crazy. Can you handle it?
Well, like I said earlier, I like once in a while
Wait.
practice.
Do you have kids? Do you have children?
Yes, I do.
I think a 6-year-old would be excellent for most of these characters.
Well, I have a 9-year-old son, so honestly, a lot of times that's what I have to do. I literally just turn on my mom hats. Honestly,
that was hilarious. You were like, okay, have a tantrum. Are you done with your tantrum? You sound like you were talking to your kid.
I mean, that is the purest.
Because you were talking to your kid. It was just somebody else.
Yeah.
You're talking to a kid, not your kid.
Well, I don't say a kid. I don't know. I think kids are very intelligent. But if I just have to meet the people on their needs. That he definitely had a need to scream and let it out. So, you know what? Just like a little kid who's just have all these emotions and they don't know how to deal with them, right? Because they haven't developed that part, right?
You
just have to help them out a little bit. You know, let it out. You know.
I have the theory that Steve is drunk a lot of the time. Sometimes when you have conversations with him, he's more measured and it's possible to have a better conversation. Sometimes it's impossible. He interrupts all the things. It's like people start talking and yeah. It is like, I think he's drunk, like literally drunk.
Steve, he definitely. I don't know. Oh, well, wait. Can you guys hear me first of all?
Yes. I can hear you fine.
Thanks. Oh my gosh.
Elliot has Android.
The app is like going, I don't know, it's going bonkers right now. I have to leave and come back. And you guys are like cutting out mid-sentence for me, and I have to like leave and come back. Steve is like, he interrupts a lot, and I do find that like really annoying. But he's also pretty harmless, and I think he's well-intentioned most of the time. So I give him a pass on this stuff sometimes.
I don't think he's so harmless. I think that he's misogynistic towards the women in his cadre. Says really inappropriate things to married women.
Well, apparently, my level of not having a higher education shows quite a lot.
Yeah, you can't even read the Constitution.
No, Katrina, I agree. I agree, it does. You should wear it as a badge of honor. Most people who have to pay somebody to learn this shit is because they're dumb.
Well, I like to call myself, right, disarm the people usually. And, why don't you explain to me the little stupid blonde, bleach blonde, stay-at-home mom who doesn't have any education, explain to me.
So how do you feel?
What you're saying.
You put in a lot of work. You're exhausted.
I love doing that.
You're probably a little tired than you needed to be at practice, all right?
Let's enjoy this. Nobody can tell Pro that he's hot by game.
Sorry. Talking to my young man who played 3 times today. He practiced.
Anybody still practice?
Oh yeah. That's what's up. Yeah, he practiced before he practiced, and I'm like, you gotta be feeling pretty good about yourself, but you also gotta be exhausted because it's 9:25. Third time you get basketball. Yeah, I think actually, for a second, I thought you were talking about all of us, Pro, because that also applies here. I think you opened this room at. I got here like 9 a.m. Pacific, and it's been kind of hanging out all day. And it's actually been, I think it's been a pretty good group today. And there were a lot of like really draining, energy intensive kind of conversations, but there are also some really.
That is true.
But I think everybody generally handled themselves relatively pretty well.
How did you guys survive Briar?
What do you mean survive Briar?
I think Briar's a lot to take in.
Oh, you mean that there is a lot of content, a lot of information to process in a really short amount of time? I can agree with you on that. That is a very high level, very detailed. Yes. Benjamin, you need to practice your skills of, whatever. Oh my God, why am I going blank?
Probably because there's so many things that follow in that sentence.
No. I have so many skills. Isn't my piloting skills, my guitar skills?
Practicing your absorbing information skills, that the information that comes at you very rapid and very, what could I say, not simple, very loaded.
I do think that Briar is a gift gallon. I think that's right. But I think that a lot of his claims are unsupported. Right? So it's just a naked gift gallon.
The thing he was talking about, one of the things he was talking about, that's the view of Noam Chomsky. I don't know that who's their president.
Isn't Noam Chomsky one of Epstein's friends? Yeah, I think he is.
Yeah, that's right. But he's also the most
Epstein number 4
academic on this
time. Number 10. Yeah, Epstein.
I think the question is who wasn't Epstein's friend? I think that list would have been a lot shorter.
Barack Obama wasn't.
Yeah, I'm saying that list would be a lot shorter than who was.
I don't think he was just his friend, though. I think he was like one of those,
Well,
yeah,
it's friend in quotations.
It's not clear because he was just into academics, right? And so he was friends with a lot of people in academy, but it's not clear that they were also pedophiling. But that's why you would like to have an investigation to find out exactly who was doing what, but we're fucked.
You can go to jmail.world right now and look up the emails between him and Chomsky.
I've engaged. I have saved. Well, I don't know that I saved all the trouble. I haven't read all of them. I've read quite a few of them. There are like, I think there's a few thousand, email correspondence between them. Most of them are just like stupid little like, hello, how are you? Like really short messages. But some of them are like really, I was like so fucking disappointed to see this guy in the Epstein files. Like I'm still disappointed to this day. I have mixed feelings. It's kind of like a Michael Jackson situation, if you know what I mean. I don't know what you guys think about that.
Oh, we know what you mean.
Let's not go there. That's a long combo.
Is it long?
Is it wrong to like a pedophile music written by a pedophile?
Oh, the thing that bugged me the most about what I read, I didn't read all of them, but was that he was, even after Epstein was convicted in 2008 of solicitation of an underage minor, prostitution, and another conviction in 2008, Epstein still maintained contact with him for many years afterward. That is extremely fucking disappointing. And there's a few more things that I've heard other people say about this that I haven't personally read, but I think they're probably right about them.
Elliot, do you have an Android phone?
Yeah, I got the S25 Ultra. I'm surprised you're not more onto the Chomsky thing, because he seems like the prime pickings, if you know what I mean, from your.
Oh, from my little perspective, I'm not anti-academic, by the way. I got to be careful of that. I'm writing a department proposal, a new department proposal for FC Boulder.
It's funny. It's earlier we talked about the phones like many hours ago, and maybe Pro's right that it is the moral, ethical choice to have an Android.
I just wanted to point out, Elliot, that you and I and Phil have Android. We've all had that same problem. And what I figured out until they fix it is that it's going to happen every time your phone does a angle redraw. Like if you rotate the phone and it redraws the screen in the new position, it is not reconnecting the audio. Does that make sense?
Interesting. That's why I don't have the problem, because I turned that one off.
Oh, you're turned off. Yeah, turn off rotating on your phone.
And I don't really have that problem.
Rotate on your phone, and you'll be fine.
I've actually got the screen lock on, so my screen never rotates. But when it happens for me, it seems consistent with me. Like, okay, if I press like the back button to drop down this the Clubhouse chat room, then I open up like the hallway. That's usually the main culprit. That's typically when it.
I've seen other things do it as well, like going to the settings screen and yeah.
I don't have Taro's sensibilities about things. I lack a lot of the insight that people like Taro have. But I think that if you guys were to have like a longer conversation with Ali, I think you'd probably agree. At least I hope that he's not like one of these crackpot conspiracy theorist type of people. He's like actually kind of the opposite.
Ali is sensible. That's another way of saying Ali agrees with me.
I've heard Ali make plenty of bad takes, but I think he's probably a relatively moderate kind of person. But he's as nice and well mannered as he is. He says some shit that I go But what exactly did he say today? I'm sure I'm beating a dead horse, but
I wasn't there for the whole. I heard like snippets back and forth. There was a combo between him, Katrina, and David as well. And David and Katrina seemed like on the same side of it. I didn't hear the whole thing. What was I gonna say? Ali, he seems to go like a little too hard into the Muslim stuff.
Yeah, he does.
I think he might even be a little more hardcore than Benjamin. I'm not.
I've heard people.
As I said, he's smart. He agrees with me.
I was in a room one night where someone was accusing him of that, and I hadn't actually heard it, so then I started paying attention to it, and I was like, oh, okay, I get what people are talking about. But whatever his experience is, he is from the 10 or 20 times I've heard him speak, he hardly seems like, compared to the people who are just in this room today, is anywhere near the problem that some of the people were in here. I didn't get to hear some of the characters whose names I haven't really heard before, but I forget. You guys said some entertaining names. Or I was like
an HO guy who was in here earlier.
Yeah, that guy was there. Yeah, he came in the very early morning, and he strikes me as a guy who was on his best behavior to not be as problematic as he probably otherwise normally is, because I think he was just liking we literally were talking about cosmetics and stuff, and he just jumped around. We were just kidding around. It was like me, you, and AJ, and all of a sudden he wouldn't let it go. I was like, bro, like
retinol.
Yeah, it's just something that lady said one thing about it. I can't remember who it was, and he just went crazy. And that's when I was on the court in the morning.
Coco.
Yeah. And she was like, she's just like, oh, I'm into face care, blah blah blah, and all that stuff. So, we were just like engaging in that conversation a little bit. He wouldn't let that stuff go. So, and I started listening to the guy's viewpoints. I was like, oh, okay, he's a little touched, but the whole app is a bunch of touch people, And I do some of what I heard Taro doing. Like I was playing basketball, but I was trying to get the gist of it. But it was like the criticism of how people do or don't mod. And it's like I sometimes will get up on my little horse and say the same shit. Be like, but at the end of the day, no one's fucking paid to be here. People can do what the fuck they want. It's a public app, and you can't get mad if people aren't paying attention that much, right? It's not like some evil, sinister plot all the time. If people who are modded aren't doing what they need to be doing, people got fucking lives. Like I listened to about 45% of what went on today, which is about my usual percentage. That's just what I fucking do. I'm not playing police to people, but if I'm in the room and some people are saying some bullshit, I'm going to tell them they're saying some bullshit. I am the least afraid to tell some fucking bullshit person that they're saying bullshit, probably in the whole fucking app. I think people are pussies on this app and don't tell people enough when they're speaking bullshit. So I kind of agree with that, but at the same point, you can't police everybody. People are fucking busy. I don't give two flying shits about what's happening 25% of the time in Clubhouse because I'm barely paying attention. And we got to drop the idea that this is fucking important to people. It is not really that important to me. I am literally in there just taking up time and letting people talk in the background. And if I have time and I can engage meaningfully, I will. But I come in my room and be under no false pretenses that I really give a shit, because I don't. I only give a shit when I can give a shit, because my life is, fucking just like everybody else. There's a lot of shit going on. And so it's like, this is just a fucking app. And people are going to say bullshit, and you can either leave or stay or come up and tell them to their face that they're being a fucktwat. That's about the options you have. But you can't tell people, I need you to moderate harder if we're not paying them. You know what I'm saying? It's like, people don't need to do shit. You can hope they do shit. And I've said the same stuff. Hey, man, you hear some people talking to bullshit. Don't be afraid to throw them in the crowd. What I don't like is when people kick people out of the room. That's just me personally. But, people have kicked people out of the room when I've been in here. Benjamin's done it. Sam's done it. All kinds of people. I don't usually kick people out of the room. But that's just me. You do your own room and kick people out the room all day and see how many people stay in the room. Maybe you'll have 50, maybe you'll have 5. Who knows? But this shit's like hard to have a room going all day when you got a life. You know what I'm saying? So there it is. But it's a long ass meta conversation about this shit that's been going on for like 3 hours, talking about the 3 hours of conversation. I can't really believe we're still talking about this shit.
My favorite part was right in the beginning when I first encountered for the first time, the Rational Boomer on the Rational Boomer podcast. That was fucking great. And then I always love it when Sam goes on a rampage. I think he got into it with that guy prior time about whatever that law was that got repealed in 2012. He went in on that guy.
Didn't we start bombing Iran again today? Or was that yesterday?
Depends what time zone you're in.
Shit, did I just like talk over everybody again?
No, we can't hear you.
App is like, it's happened like 6 times in the past like 20 minutes.
You know what they say, if you're a petulant child and you don't get your way, well, fucking bomb the shit out of them, right? That's the good old American way, right? I'm gonna have a peace deal, it's gonna be huge, better than the old one. Oh, sorry. It imploded. Let me fucking bomb them.
It's like, move, bitch. Move, bitch. Move, Ahmadinejad. Get out the way. We're coming through. We're gonna take your nukes.
You know, I think from like 9 to like 1 or 12 or something like that, that whole like section of today's room was, I think that was a lot of like, on a real note, a lot of really important information that people need to hear. They need to hear people saying these things and hear them talking about it, because it's I don't know if it's just Clubhouse or whatever, but it's kind of just a topic that goes unspoken. You know, it's like people kind of dread talking about the thing, the elephant in the room, but I think people need to hear it anyway.
Wait, which elephant was it at that time again? Exactly.
Oh, how do I describe this? The entire sort of, I don't know, thematic themes since like from, I don't know, 2000 to like 2026, the whole picture